Disputes over Swiss franc loans have long been the largest group of cases of any kind on the dockets of courts across the country. Banks in Poland have granted more than 500,000 franc loans, representing a huge market for the services of law firms specializing in suing franc banks. However, the most popular mortgage is a PLN loan with a variable interest rate based on WIBOR. Will WIBOR loan follow the Swiss franc legal path? Today my guest is Aneta Ciechowicz-Jaworska. From Kancelaria Radców Prawnych, Aneta Ciechowicz-Jaworska, BARTŁOMIEJ, ŚLAŻYSKI. Good morning.
Good morning. On the beginning, I would like to thank you for having me here. This is the big honor, and thank you for inviting me here.
Well, the topic is definitely very up to date, not even today, but for a very long time. It will have a massive impact on the consumer behaviors, but also on the financial systems, stability of the financial system in Poland. Actually, according to the results of the survey conducted among economists of the initiative of the European Financial Congress, the main threat to the financial system is the legal risk of mortgages. But before we'll go and we'll discuss deeper maybe the topic of the risk, can we go a little bit back to the origins of the problem?
The origins of the problem, the first we have to remember about the mortgage based on the franc currency. As you remember, in 2007, 2006, the most popular mortgage, there were the mortgage in the franc currency. This mortgage was based on the value of the franc, and at that time, the value of the franc was very stable. Even our Polish government, in one of the reports in 2007, stated that this is very stable value. This is the very stable currency. And now we have two types of the mortgage. The first mortgage is the value of the credit of the loan is denominated in the franc. However, the payment of the loan is in Polish zloty. The second type, it is the value of the credit of the loan is indexed on the franc. And what's happened in 2008, 2009, 2010? The value of the franc currency has been increased. Why? Because of the intervention of the Swiss bank, and because of the crisis in 2008 and 2009. And mortgage, for example, when somebody took the mortgage in an amount of 100,000 PLN and paid this mortgage in 10 years, after 10 years has the same amount to be paid back.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And I understand that this is the reason why the borrowers actually started to sue the banks. So what are the arguments used by the Swiss franc creditors in their lawsuits?
The first argument, it was the change and the valuation of the currency. In fact, we have to remember that all banks use their own currency table to value the value of the mortgage, the value of the rates which were paid by the customers, and it was two value in this table. The first value, it was the buying and the selling value. And what's happened? The client had the loan which were calculated based on the buying value, but when he was paying the rates, it was based on the value of the selling. And this table were announced by the banks, and the clientele that they don't understand why the banks using this table. And one of the arguments was that there is additional income on the banks regarding this table. They told that because they are not understand why. For example, when you are going to the counter, you are buying the euro. You don't know how is calculated the price of the counter. It was the same in the bank. And this was the first argument. The second argument, it was a misleading information because customers raised, and during the taking the mortgage, when they concluded the contract, they had a guarantee of the banks that this is very stable value. In fact, at that time, it was very stable value. This currency. And this is the reason that the second argument was misleading information. This misleading information, in fact, was confirmed by the judgment of the court, and we have to remember that the answer of our government was the new law which was established in 2011 regarding the calculation of the rates and possibility to pay back in the currency in which the mortgage were taken. And after we have to remember that Supreme Court the same has stated that it has to be very clear information to the client. In the opinion of the Supreme Court, my opinion, I have different opinion, but however, the opinion of the Supreme Court, the information which were given to the client, it was misleading information. And we have to remember that how to tell you? I cannot agree with this, with the Supreme Court opinion, because we have to remember that banks, they are fully regulated in a financial institution. We are in European Union, we have directives which concern the banking activity and concern the consumer protection, and our supervisor body, which is KNF, issued the recommendation S, and in this recommendation S, it was the guidance for the bank, and the banks fully accepted this guidance regarding the information which are given to the client in case of the mortgage based on Swiss franc.
Okay, so that's about Swiss francs, but of course, as I mentioned in my introduction, and we know it from the statistics, in Poland, popular mortgage is now a PLN one, yes, with this variable interest rate based on WIBOR. So from the consumer perspective, what are the disadvantages of this type of loan, and is it something similar, or we can expect similar scenarios as with the franc loans?
I hope not. I hope not. And we have to remember what is the WIBOR. WIBOR, it is very well known factor. Yes, the factor which, as I remember when I was very young lawyer, I remember about this WIBOR, and I was taught during my study about this WIBOR, and how these loans are constructed. This is the sum rates, interest rates plus WIBOR. And you have to remember that WIBOR is variable. It's not a stable factor. And for example, in 2004, the WIBOR was 7%. In August 2021, the WIBOR was almost over 0%. And the next year, August 2022, the WIBOR was over 7%. So WIBOR is variable, and everybody knows what is the value of the WIBOR, what is the rate of the WIBOR. Everybody can check. This is publicly known, publicly announced. So this is the reason that, in my opinion, in case of WIBOR, we don't have the same situation like in the francs. However, there are first suits of the consumer in the Polish court, and this is true. We can meet with this problem very soon.
Yeah, because it has a real impact on the pockets of our customers who actually took the credit. I think that there are also some estimations on how this WIBOR shaped the credit rates, right? Do you have such an estimations? For example, what has changed over these years when the WIBOR went from 0 to 7?
For example, when somebody has rates to be paid to the bank in the 2021, it was approximately 1,100 PLN per month, and the amount of the mortgage was 300,000 zloty. And in next year, August in the next year, the rates which has to be paid to the bank, it was 2,400. So you can see the difference within 1 year.
And especially that probably, to buy the apartment in Poland,
exactly.
You don't take the credit for 300,000 zlotys, but probably double that or even triple. So that's also has a growing impact on the, exactly. And that is probably motivating people to check whether they can do something about it. But of course, we also have, you mentioned the Supreme Court, but also we have the position of the Court of Justice of the European Union regarding Swiss francs, but also the fact is that they have a different approach toward interest rate risk and the currency risk in the case of foreign currencies, yes. Right? So if you can tell us a little bit about that.
We have to remember that in the case of law of the Court of Justice of European Union is evolving towards increasing and extending consumer protection based on the Directive 93/13. We have to remember that court emphasized that there is existing imbalance between the parties, between the consumer and the banks. The court says that the banks, as a professionalist, has more information, and the court emphasized that bank has to give to the customer more information, especially about the currency risk, about the risk of the contract, about even the risk, which is all clear information about the rates and the changes of the rates in the period of time on which the mortgage was concluded. The court said that it has to be very comprehensive instruction on currency risks to the client. It has to be very clear information to the client. And the court said in one of the cases that when the provision of the contract, of the mortgage contract, will be found as abusive, such a situation can have further impact on the contract, and such contract can be found as a not valid contract. Not valid contract does mean that contract does not exist, and this is the consequence of the justice of the judgment of the Court of Justice of European Union.
This is the reason why nowadays we have a lot of lawsuits against the bank with the franc, Swiss franc, yes, currency.
Franc.
But do you think that actually with the WIBOR we can expect similar things, or you are rather expect that it will be as a completely different case and maybe the scenario will be different?
To tell you the truth, I have, in my personal opinion, but as a lawyer, legal opinion, in my opinion, WIBOR cannot be treated like the Swiss francs mortgage. However, based on what I have found now in the courts, even in the public, there are already judgments of the court which are very similar to the francs. And for example, when somebody has submitted the suit against the WIBOR, the judge can give so-called security. This security it is the decision of the judge that the client is not longer responsible for payment the rates based on the contract. So it does mean that probably it can be the same scenario like in case of WIBOR, like it was in the Swiss franc. And the same arguments plaintiff, customers of the bank are using in these cases. And I already had in my law firm couple of the WIBOR cases, and when I saw this plaintiff, I saw almost the same arguments, misleading information to the consumers regarding the WIBOR. So probably it can be the same situation like in Swiss franc mortgage. However, I hope that it will be different situation.
Well, thank you very much for the discussion and this explanation of the very comprehensive topic, which will have and is having actually a huge impact on the financial system, but also on the consumer behaviors. So probably we'll have to meet in 1 year to see how it will roll out and what are the consequences in our pockets, but also in terms of, banking system, loans, credits for everyone in different sectors. Yes. Thank you very much for the discussion.
Thank you very much.